Three Mavericks on the chopping block next after surprise trade. The Dallas Mavericks wasted no time in making a splashy move following the 2024 NBA Draft, sending Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-round picks to the Detroit Pistons for young guard Quentin Grimes. This trade was mostly about getting Hardaway's large salary off the books, though Grimes is a promising young 3-and-D player who could prove to be a valuable addition. Dallas knows it needs to make changes to the roster after coming up short in the NBA Finals, and I expect the organization to be busy in the coming weeks. With that in mind, let's look at three Mavericks in danger of losing their place on the team next. Markieff Morris. A veteran locker room presence nearing the end of his NBA career, Markieff Morris is a free agent, and there is little reason for Dallas to bring him back. He averaged just 2.5 points per contest this year, and played in only one playoff game, so his days as a Maverick should be over. Dallas's lack of depth was exposed in the finals against such a deep team in Boston. Finding valuable bench players is a priority for the Mavericks front office, especially if they want to ease the load on Luka Doncic throughout the regular season. Morris is entering his 15th year in the league. He's enjoyed a fruitful career, but it's time for Dallas to move on. Jason Kidd has praised Morris's leadership. With how young Dallas's roster is, it could make sense to keep Morris around as a Udonis Haslem-like veteran who never plays. If the journeyman is willing to take the minimum, and he might not have a choice, it's possible he signs another one-year deal. However, I'd like to see Dallas use the roster spot on someone who actually has a chance to contribute in the playoffs. With Hardaway's $16+ million salary gone, the Mavericks could be on the verge of a trade or action in free agency. And Morris isn't the best use of a roster spot. Dwight Powell. The only player on the active roster over 30 years old, Dwight Powell has spent 10 seasons in Dallas, but wasn't in the rotation in the playoffs. He appeared in 63 games for the Mavericks in 2023-24, though he played only 13 minutes a game. His limited production could be easily replaced, and Kidd's postseason rotation indicates Powell's best days are behind him. Similar to Morris, he could be kept as a locker room presence, though he's more likely to be included in a trade should Dallas make a move. Powell is under contract for $4 million next season and then has a player option for another $4 million, making it easy to include him in a potential deal. The veteran big man does bring value as a backup who utilizes his savvy and athleticism to keep the line moving and avoid mistakes. Despite that, Dallas has bigger fish to fry now. Powell's limitations make him a nice player to have, but not a necessity. The Mavericks clearly prioritize youth and development, neither of which are in Powell's favor. He isn't at risk of being released, though pay attention to trade rumors in case the Mavericks include him in pursuit of someone with a higher upside in the playoffs. Dante Exum. A common theme here is players who were largely left out of Jason Kidd's playoff rotation. Dante Exum went from playing 20 minutes per game in the regular season to just 6.9 minutes in the postseason, illustrating Kidd's true feelings toward the veteran point guard. Exum has 2 years left on his low-cost deal and made an impressive 49% of his three-pointers this season, albeit on limited volume. He averaged 7.8 points per contest, his most since 2017-18, so it's reasonable that a team would take a chance on his continued development. Similar to Markelle Fultz, perhaps Exum could be a late bloomer for a young squad in need of a steadying presence on the bench. He served that role admirably for the Mavericks, though it's clear Kidd prefers a more trusted floor general in the playoffs. There's a reasonable argument to be made that Kidd should have just played Exum more down the stretch. Doncic clearly wore out, and perhaps Dallas's lesson will be to further commit to Exum's improvement. The Mavericks desperately need a backup point guard to spell Doncic's playmaking load. Far too often Dallas's bench collapsed while Luka was resting. If Exum turns into that steadying presence, things become far easier. If the team's brass doesn't think Exum is that guy though, they won't hesitate to find one in the trade market or free agency this offseason.